going to be sharing experiences from a week-long driving vacation to Southern California. We're part of that 37 million, right? Richard has lived in Park City for almost 2 years. He has worked as a database programmer for a large company. He only gets to see his manager about once a year and feels absolutely no regret about it. His objectives are to choose words and grammar that communicate clearly, choose words and grammar that appeal to the senses, and eliminate jargon. His speech time is 5 to 7 minutes. Please welcome Richard.
Hello. With the canicular days of summer approaching, I recently took a week's driving vacation to Southern California with my girlfriend Brenda. At the car rental, we carefully inspected a Prius and a Jetta, quizzing the agent on their relative cargo capacity since we had lots of luggage. A good part of it belonging to George, Brenda's lovable, rambunctious toy fox terrier, whom I've grown to be quite fond of. As the dreadful agent walked us back to the office to sign some papers, I was stopped in my tracks by a stunning, bright red Camaro. Instantly, I visualized myself at the wheel, enjoying my control over it, one suntanned arm hanging nonchalantly over the door, Brenda's red hair waving in the wind as the crowd growled past several secretly envious males and females, irresistibly driven to head-turning looks in our direction. I brought myself back down to reality to see Brenda gently stroking the powerful machine, smiling her own secret thoughts, perhaps. Out of the corner of my eye, I watched a happy grin insinuate itself on the face of the car rental agent. It's only $15 extra a day, she quipped softly. I briefly thought about our painstaking trunk space and extra expenses it would be, and turned and in answer to Brenda's expectant look said, "Oh, what the hell, let's go for it." We had an enjoyable vacation, traveling to Newport Beach and then down the coast, stopping in Carlsbad and the incomparable La Valencia Hotel in La Jolla, California. Our plan was to make the 12-hour drive back to Salt Lake City in one day. We left La Jolla's sparkling blue waters and headed for the Utah desert about 10 a.m. I had to be at work the next day, no wiggle room. 6 or so hours later, with the receding light of day slowly disappearing the Utah desert landscape, we entered a desolate stretch of winding road under construction. I was enjoying the Camaro's sensitive steering, tightly turning me through gentle curves, when around one curve a worrisome rock appeared, perched on the road about 10 feet in front of me. With very little room to maneuver, because of the construction barricades on either side, I calmly steered so that the rock would pass right under the middle of the car. Calmly, since I had forgotten that the ground hugger I was driving had probably less than 3 inches clearance. The next thing we felt was a hard jarring as the Camaro's taut suspension transmitted the contact of the rock with the right front tire to our bodies. Brenda gave me an uh-oh, not good look, and I turned to the instrument panel, which has a graphic showing all 4 tires and their tire pressures. As I was explaining the not to worry because my cool little tire graphic will tell me if the tire is okay, the number on the right front tire graphic decreased from 34 to 30. Then, over the next 15 minutes, continued sinking disappointingly until it came to rest at 0. I pulled out at the next off-ramp just as the cloud-covered landscape plunged into the kind of pitch-black darkness you only get in those parts of the country where there are no man-made or natural lights for miles around, and found myself at a crossroads with no sign of civilization to the left or to the right, except for the barely visible concrete ribbon of road and the occasional car or truck whizzing by unseen and unconcerned about my punctured plan to arrive home tonight. After thinking about our situation for a few minutes, my eyes must have adjusted to the dark because ahead of me I saw a truck parked on the on-ramp to the freeway. I pulled forward and parked behind it, which seemed to quiet the howling coyotes which I nervously imagined appearing at any moment. The truck had its lights out, and when I walked up to the cab, it looked dark and empty. I concluded the driver was catching some shut-eye, and rather than waking him up with my problems, I would set about either fixing the tire myself or calling a tow truck driver. It took me about 10 minutes to unload the tightly packed trunk and place the luggage on the darkened highway behind the wounded Camaro. All the while worrying that some band of thieves would appear, smiling cruelly at their good fortune in our somewhat helpless situation. I pulled out the pint-sized spare tire and managed to locate a jack that looked no bigger than a police baton. How in the hell, I thought, was this pipsqueak going to lift up this hunk of metal? After playing around with the toy for about 15 minutes, I opted for the easy if more expensive alternative and called the rental company's emergency road service. Giving the operator my best guess at our location from the GPS map on my iPhone. She asked me to wait while she looked up, and about 3 minutes later informed me that our location did not register. What? I felt the chill of the night and the eerie darkness closing in. Wait a minute, we're on a damn freeway, not in the middle of Death Valley. How can you not locate us? Looking up at my truck companion for reassurance, I was surprised to find that it had noiselessly disappeared, adding a touch of the surreal to the moonless night. We were lost and alone while the occasional car continued to howl by out of view. Finally, the operator found us on our map after I repeated our location, and she promised a tow truck driver within 40 minutes. By this time, both Brenda and I were tired, grumpy, and just wanting our adventure to be over. As we sat morosely waiting for the tow truck, I noticed what looked like the same truck that had abandoned us, pulling over in front of us again. It turns out it was a different trucker from the same company stopping to check his load. When he jumped out of the truck, a strapping, friendly young man, curious about our situation and confessing that he just loved Camaros, I was just too happy for the company and showed him the car and talked about it with him until he helpfully offered to change the tire himself, which he proceeded to do in about 15 minutes. We shortly said our hearty goodbyes, and some 4 hours later, around 2 a.m., Brenda, George, and I arrived in our limping Camaro, and me not at all ready for work the next day. Thank you.